Dave Thomas made a name for himself working with Colonel Harlan Sanders and Kentucky Fried Chicken in Columbus, Ohio. And as much as he enjoyed a steaming bucket of delicious fried chicken with its secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices, he was irritated that he and his buddies couldn't find a decent burger in the Buckeye State. So what did he do? Well, what he didn't do was continue working for KFC. Today on Weird History Food, we're putting the heat lamp on Dave Thomas, the famed founder of Wendy's. But before we grease the griddle and fire up the fryer, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. Then leave a comment and let us know what other fast food-related topics you would like to know more about. Now, here's a #1 Dave Thomas combo, no tomato with fries and an iced tea. Rex David Thomas was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey on July 2, 1932. His mother, Molly, was unwed and wasn't able to keep him. At 6 weeks old, he was adopted by Rex and Aleva Thomas, but sadly Aleva passed away when Dave was only 5. In the following years, his adoptive father moved frequently from state to state looking for work. The time Dave and his dad spent together mostly involved eating at local restaurants, usually ones with good hamburgers. It was an activity that Dave relished because, 1, he had his dad to himself, and 2, yum, burgers. Have you had a hamburger? They are fantastic. He also later said that he enjoyed sitting in restaurants watching families enjoy a meal together. Like sprinkling seeds on a newly baked bun, these early memories with his father seeded his desire to one day own his own restaurant. When Rex was traveling, Dave often spent summers with his grandmother, Minnie Sinclair, on her farm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Some of Dave's fondest childhood memories were of his time on the farm, where Minnie taught him the value of hard work, responsibility, and respect for others. The instability of his own family life made him realize that he would have to rely on himself, his own work ethic and ambition, if he were going to succeed. He got one of his first restaurant jobs at the age of 12 or 13 at the Regus restaurant in Knoxville, Tennessee. Later, when Dave was in high school and living with his father in Fort Wayne, Indiana, he got a job at the Hobby House restaurant working for owner Phil Klaus, who would become a mentor. At the age of 15, Dave had finally found the family he was looking for at the restaurant. When his father grew restless and was set to relocate yet again, Dave refused to leave. He even dropped out of high school to devote more time to his job. Years later, while promoting education as a foundation of success in life and business, he would deeply regret his decision. Yeah, the decision that led to the creation of an extremely successful business. Hey, Dave, don't be too hard on yourself. He went on to acquire what he called his mop bucket attitude, his version of an MBA. Dave enlisted in the Army at age 18 at the beginning of the Korean War, hoping that by volunteering rather than being drafted, he would have some choice in the direction his military service would take. He went to Fort Benning, Georgia, where he attended the U.S. Army Cooks and Bakers School and learned the craft of feeding hungry troops. Yes, Dave Thomas was a war chef. His military career would encompass several culinary milestones. He was one of the youngest soldiers ever to manage an enlisted men's club, where troops could let loose a bit and maybe enjoy a burger without the domineering presence of an officer. And he was sent to Germany as a mess sergeant, where he fed thousands of soldiers a day. These experiences were significant contributors to his later success in fast food. And eating at a fast food joint is similar to eating in a mess hall, except the food is tastier. In 1953, after his deployment, he returned to Fort Wayne and his job at the Hobby House, where he sparked up a relationship with a new waitress, Lorraine Buskirk. The workplace sweethearts wasted no time and were married in 1954. At the Hobby House, Klaus made the acquaintance of Colonel Sanders, who was on the road promoting franchises for his Kentucky Fried Chicken business. And if you've seen our episode on Sanders, you know that Sanders being on the road probably involved a shotgun and at least one fistfight. Klaus saw an opportunity when it came clucking and began selling KFC at his Hobby House restaurant, the head cook for which, by this time, was Dave Thomas.
When I first heard of him, I thought, who is this guy? Why would he dress up with a funny-looking suit, vest, but he was very charming. And I thought to myself, here's a guy that I may like him. And I didn't know that he was going to play a big part of my life, give me a big opportunity.
Klaus was sold on the KFC approach and had hobby house outlets in Columbus, Ohio that were not doing well. Klaus offered Dave a challenge: move to Columbus and improve sales at the struggling restaurants there in exchange for a stake in the business. Colonel Sanders, who had taken Dave under his crispy original recipe wing, was not sold on the idea. He thought the businesses were too far gone to turn around. But Dave was supporting a young family on a cook's wages, so he wasn't afraid to roll those dice. In 1962, he made the move. He tightened up the vast menu offerings in the Columbus eateries and focused instead on chicken. He came up with the idea of KFC's now famous rotating red and white bucket-o chicken sign. And he saw value in putting a face on the KFC brand, urging Colonel Sanders to utilize his likeness in TV ads. Dave would later put this same concept to use in his own advertising. Thomas was so successful in Columbus that he was able to sell his stake back to Sanders and the Kentucky Fried Chicken organization in 1968 for $1.5 million. A very groovy sum, especially in 1960 dollars. That's roughly $14 million today. Not bad for a guy with an MBA. Thomas took the proceeds of the KFC sale and plowed them into the dream he'd had his whole life: to open his own restaurant. He knew he wanted a concept that involved a personality, someone customers could relate to. He wanted a place with a good burger, fresh, never frozen, and made to order, like those he and his adoptive dad shared a love for all those years ago. And he wanted a wholesome, comfortable, family-friendly establishment where his kids could work during the summer. But what to call it? Dave and his wife Lorraine had 5 children: Pam, Ken, Lori, Molly, and redheaded Melinda Lou. Young Melinda and her siblings had trouble pronouncing her name. It came out Wenda, which eventually morphed into Wendy. A light bulb-shaped spatula went off over Dave's head. One day at home, Thomas had his daughter do her hair in pigtails, which were kept in place by pipe cleaners, and took pictures of her in a blue and white striped dress made by her mother. And just like that, a cute as the Dickens mascot, one that would eventually be recognized worldwide, was born. In November 1969, Thomas opened the world's first Wendy's old-fashioned hamburgers on 5th and Broad Streets in downtown Columbus, debuting his famous square, not round, beef patty. Because as everybody and their brother knows, Wendy's doesn't cut corners. According to Wendy's marketing exec Frank Vamos, that's a message Dave Thomas wanted to instill throughout the company. So it's definitely symbolic. Another reason for the square patty is that Dave was always very confident in the quality of our meat. He wanted to make sure that the patty sticks out of the bun so that everyone could see it, see the juiciness. And the square patty does that. Oh yeah, let that juiciness hang out. Along with the square patty came the fresh, never frozen guarantee. Sure, Wendy's burgers might have been a little more expensive compared to the big players in the industry, Mickey D's and His Majesty the King of Burgers, but Thomas believed his customers would be willing to spend a little more for better quality. Quality is our recipe is still the rule at Wendy's. Dave pioneered other fast food concepts, including the restaurant's short menu. Wendy's first customers could choose from the hot and juicy burger, rich and meaty chili, fries, soft drinks, and that Wendy's staple, the Frosty, into which some people allegedly dip their French fries. Monsters. The first Wendy's didn't include a drive-thru window, but beginning in 1970, the company began installing them in subsequent outlets. While the drive-thru concept wasn't new, Wendy's was one of the first restaurants to make it a success, and it helped fuel the business's expansion. In 1973, Thomas began franchising the Wendy's brand, but instead of selling franchises as individual units, he hit on the innovation of franchise licensing for entire cities or regions, which helped ignite Wendy's growth. The company opened more than 1,000 outlets in its first 100 months. By November 1980, about a year and a half later, there were 2,000. That's a whole lot of square hamburgers. Wendy's salad bars appeared in 1979, and baked potatoes followed in 1983, adding to the string of Wendy's innovations. And while some people argue that baked potatoes already existed, those people are wrong, and have clearly never eaten one from Wendy's. In 1984, Russian-born manicurist turned TV personality Clara Peller appeared in an iconic television ad for Wendy's, in which she stared at a gigantic pillowy bun dwarfing a minuscule hamburger patty and demanded to know,
"Where's the beef?"
The ad was a huge hit, with Wendy's partly attributing a 31% boost in annual revenue to its popularity.
"Where's the beef?"
"Where's the beef?" eventually became a cultural catchphrase.
"Where's the beef?"
Right here, ma'am.
That's cooked.
During a primary debate in the 1984 presidential campaign, former Vice President Walter Mondale belittled Senator Gary Hart and his supposed new ideas by demanding to know, "Where's the beef?" Mondale was running on a staunch pro-burger platform. In 1982, Dave Thomas retired from day-to-day operations at the company, remaining as chairman. And while the early to mid-'80s were good years, thanks in part to good old Clara Peller,
One more time.
"Where's the beef?"
there were problems on the horizon. Sales from a new breakfast menu were less than dazzling. Brand awareness became muddled, and quality control suffered. According to Dave, the company had become cocky. In 1985, the new president of Wendy's asked him to come back on board, to take a more active role and bring back that mop bucket attitude, which apparently meant appearing in a bunch of ads. Dave did his first commercial for the company in 1989, and while that may be hard to believe for anyone who grew up in the 90s and saw his folksy face on TV every single day, his first appearance was not well received. Advertising age likened Thomas and his wooden delivery to a steer in a half-sleeved shirt. Wendy's ad agency pushed for more humor in the ads, and by 1990, when Thomas assumed a more self-deprecating demeanor, consumers began to respond. Dave Thomas soon became a household name and, over the years, appeared in more than 800 commercials for Wendy's. Man, I'm not even sure Ronald McDonald's done that many. Dave was extremely busy during the 90s, and not just doing all those commercials. In 1992, he founded the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption because he believed that every child deserves a permanent and loving home. Dave also used his success and popularity to promote education. But some kids thought Dave's message didn't square with his experience. He was a high school dropout, after all, which he saw as a terrible stigma. So in 1993, at age 60, Thomas studied for and received his GED from Coconut Creek High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where he lived. No one could ever accuse Dave of being lazy, and it's clear his philanthropic causes were personally important to him, which squares with the kind-hearted image he portrayed on TV. According to Wendy's, Dave Thomas was a real-life example of how hard work, dedication, and commitment can lead to success. He was also a role model for accepting nothing less than the highest quality in everything.
I mean, our customers come in, they want a clean restaurant, they want good service, and they want to get their money's worth.
Sure.
And I think that applies to anything we do.
Thomas passed away in 2002 at the age of 69 after devoting more than 30 years to his passion, Wendy's, and enjoying great success. But he did have at least one regret, according to the real Wendy, his daughter, who is herself a Wendy's franchisee. Dave apparently felt a little guilty about putting so much attention on her as the restaurant's mascot. Melinda recalls him once saying, "I should have just named it after myself." Dave's doesn't quite have the same ring to it. But put some baked potatoes on the menu and we'll talk. Today, Wendy's is a global chain of more than 7,000 outlets. Mergers with restaurant heavyweights Tim Hortons and Arby's have come and gone, but the company that never cuts corners, with its fresh, never frozen guarantee, is still going strong. Dave said it best. People ask me about the secret of my success, and I tell them there's no secret. You have to have persistence, a burning desire to succeed, and a passion for the business. These things kept me motivated and focused on what I wanted to accomplish. It sounds simple, and it really is. Aha, there's the beef. So what do you think? Do you have a favorite menu item at Wendy's? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History Food.